Hey, what's up, everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics. Welcome back. So this is part 3 of the Supergirl artwork that we've been working on. So we're going to refine this artwork even further using Manga Studio, Clip Studio Paint. So let me open that up here. And so we've got a good part of the sketch going, but now I'm going to show you a little bit more about cleaning it up a bit further. Still a few things that I'm not digging entirely with this piece, so I'll rectify that. And then also I'll show you how I start to shade this. So we'll get into some rendering, adding some detail in the buildings. We'll see how far we can get. So, and as always, let me get this out of the way. Shameless plug time. You can support the work that I do here by following me on Gumroad, picking up stuff from there, whether it be custom brushes or video content. And then also I have a Patreon where by supporting you can get Patreon only videos. So there's a feed on there and Patreon only artwork. And some of the artwork is artwork that I release elsewhere, but I release higher res versions for your support on there and things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. Hey, what's up, Keeman? Good to have you back. Glad you can make it. So what I want to do is I want to make a copy of this. So I'm going to duplicate this by right-clicking, duplicate there. I like to just stage the work. So I think, let's go ahead and do it this way. I think this was the first sketch that we did in video 1. And then, you can see that started off as more of the classic Supergirl outfit. And then we decided to change it. And then we'll take it to this level and we'll start adding some shading and also clean up a few of the things that I think could be better. Hello, Theodore. Good to have you. So, yeah, we already got a few people showing up. That's awesome. Thanks very much. So one of the things I wanted to show you, even with line work, this is still a little bit rough, but at the same time, one of the things I'm noticing is I want a little bit more of the hourglass shape in her form right here. So I want to show you one of the cool ways that you can clean that up inside of this program. This also works really well in Photoshop. I think it works, I'll be honest, I think it works a touch better in Photoshop, but it still works pretty good here. So you'll edit, transform, mesh transformation. Now you'll notice over here, as long as you have this dialog, the tool property box open, you can control how many control points. I actually like to err on the side of less because if you get too many in there, it becomes hard to kind of manipulate, a little bit easy to over skew the work. So, but the beauty of it is you can just move these lines around a bit and kind of add some quick shape changes. And the reason why I really like doing this is because then you can go Command Z, Command Y, and you can toggle back and forth, even zoom back, Command Z, Command Y, and kind of check the work. So it's really great for quick edits. So if I want to bring in or waste a bit more there, and obviously I could just soft erase and redraw this, but I just want to show you, there's lots of ways to skin the proverbial cat kind of thing. All right, so and we got a new one, or I think that's a new name. MCPE Side Builds. Hello, Rob. Yeah, hi MCP. I don't know what to call you there, but can you draw realistic faces? Not now. I'm asking in general. Yeah, Theodore, I can do that in a future live stream for sure. I just wanted to get this series wrapped up. It'll probably take a couple more of this particular live streams to finish this out. But I just want to give you guys a variety of stuff. So I thought the fan art fun kind of thing would be nice because, we're all big fans of these characters, and you get to see kind of the way that I would work through a fan art piece step by step. It does take a little while. As you can see, we're already in video 3, and so this is going over 2 hours just to get me here. Partly I'm explaining it, so that's a little bit of the process that slows it down, but also, I just want to show you guys that these things don't just happen, at least for me, in a really expedited amount of time. Some of them take a little while, so I think it's helpful to share that little bit of information because I think some people assume that these pieces are just really, really quickly done because you just see the aftermath. You don't always see the labor and intensity that goes into some of this. So hopefully this series will kind of shed light on that. And you get to see the choices I make throughout the process as well. So whether they be good or bad. Okay. But yeah, I'll definitely do some on more realistic faces. I need to get back on that as well. one of the things I talk about on this channel quite a bit is that use realism to kind of bring yourself back to, you know, I don't want to say back to reality. That sounds too obvious, really, but it kind of reins you in. It reins your imagination in, because your imagination can get so crazy and wild. You could just do all sorts of things, but use that realism and that study of reality to give yourself a foundation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So once you have that foundation to your work, I think you can let your imagination go wild, but uh, it will relate better to people. You know, people need to see a little bit of correctness in your work for them to really uh, adore it, or whatever. You know, really relate to it. So I've got way too many strands of hair here, so I'm taking note of that. You notice I moved this eye over it, and it needed to be a little bit further. And I think this one is tilted just a little bit further up, so I could either, so if you notice, this one looks kind of straight across this way, and this one's going up this way a bit. So to rectify that, I could obviously either just grab this one and tilt it back a little bit, maybe down and back this way. So I'll kind of nudge things around, or I could have grabbed the other one. I kind of like the animated effect that it has when the eyes are tilted like this. But for this one, I'll just straighten that out real quickly. And let me try to fix some of this hair here. It's going all crazy. Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. And then, what's the other saying? Can you draw Son Goku on a video? I'm not exactly sure who that is, unfortunately, but I mean, I'm sure at some point, I'm going to try to set up a way where I can do, obviously I could take requests during the videos, but I want to make it a little bit more interactive or fair to everybody, or something where maybe I do a bit of a contest for the next one. If these start to take off where they do well enough, then I'll make a bit of a contest out of it where everybody pitches in their idea and then I pick from them, because obviously if not, it would just be, I don't know, I guess first come first serve. But I'll make it a little bit more contest oriented for that. So I'm going to soft erase this hair down pretty far. I want to get rid of a lot of these strands. There's just too much information there. As a lot of great artists will tell you when you study them. One that comes to mind is Jim Lee. I was just watching one of his videos. If you don't watch Jim Lee's videos, you're really missing out. And he says that drawing every hair is for one, counterproductive, and it doesn't look as good, and it doesn't read as well. You got to leave a little bit more of that information to the viewer to let them kind of decipher it. I can't remember exactly how he said it, but it made a lot of sense. That for one, it saves you a lot of time if you clump the hairs together and draw these shapes, and it looks better. So it's just like, obviously the right choice. If it saves time and it looks better, then that must be the way to go, especially for comics where you gotta really figure out how to get this stuff done as quickly and as effectively as possible. So I'm trying to eliminate the urge to want to draw every strand and trying to grab big areas, but still get a bit of flowing kind of feel to the hair. And I think that's where it makes you want to draw every strand, because you want that effect that it's just moving and flowing all around. So it seems like it would make more sense to draw every hair to do that, but really you just get a kind of a mess going there, a bit of a spaghetti strand looking type hair, and it doesn't have that soft billowing type feel that you would expect. I'm trying to get a little bit of that in there, hopefully. So yeah, so I'll erase a lot of these lines back, and then I'll get in there and do more solid shading. But she's a blonde, so I'll probably do a lot less shading than I would do on a brunette. And I really wanted to bring these eyelashes out. One thing I noticed too when I zoom back on a shot like this, if those eyelashes aren't real prominent, they need to be thicker. And I just keep doing that because, to me, I always look at the far off read of the character, like back here. And if that doesn't work there with the eyes and the face, then something's wrong. And it's funny how we can notice problems that far away from our character. That's why it's always good to reduce the size and flip the canvas constantly. What are you guys saying here? Let me read through these real quick. I never met somebody who doesn't know who Goku is. Yeah, here I am. I have no clue what a Goku is. Is that a guy, gal, monster? It sounds like a monster. I don't know. You guys are talking about media bank. Could you explain the blue dotted lines, please? That's just my template in the background, and that's available for free download off my one of my Gumroads. I got two, unfortunately, because I had to create a free one and a paid one, but that's another story. But you can get that. I can leave a link in the description box below. And so the blue dotted lines are these are just registrations for a standard comic book page. And I thought I would do it over that type of look, even though this would be more of a cover layout, so it doesn't really need that. But I like to work off these comic book page layouts as much as possible. The blue dotted line is the area where the page would get cut off. And past that is I want to say that's referred to as no man's land. And you're not supposed to draw anything important to the end result there because it could get lost. It could get trimmed off with the cut. So you want to stay in these inside areas of this larger blue line. And then these other segments are to help you create your panel dividers and things like that. So, okay, so now what I want to do, I'll say that's close enough. I still kind of want to fix the mouth. I'm not digging the mouth on her, but I want to get some of this shading going. Okay, so what I want to do here is show you how I start to, I would obviously clean the lines up a bit further. And the dimensions of resolution of this are 11 by 17 at 300 dpi. I've seen somebody just ask that. And do you prefer to draw on your PC with or with pencils? What is more efficient? I draw almost everything digitally now. That's just me. I mean, I do some traditional work as I talk about in a lot of these videos, but I basically do everything digital because it's faster for me. My main focus of work, or the stuff that I get commercially, is storyboard work, and that's all digital these days. I don't even know that if there are traditional storyboard artists, it's really rare. Everyone that I've ever met that does storyboards now is all digital. Even a lot of the comic guys that I've met and dealt with are pretty much going digital. So there's definitely a lot of traditional artists left that do it that way. But for me, it's a lot quicker. I do still feel that traditional is a little bit nicer end result, except for the part where you have to scan it, where I don't have to deal with scanning. So, like I said, I do work on paper here and there just because I like the feel of it. It feels old school, traditional, and all that. But for me, it's all digital because of speed. I don't have to scan stuff, and I can export my work faster to a client. So it just makes a lot of sense. In fact, I've got maybe another comic project coming up, and it'll all be digital, and I'll be shooting pages back and forth that way. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's just how I work. So I will say that the big pro to traditional is you end up with an original. So I don't get it. I don't have any originals. I have to do prints of my work, and it's a lot easier. Well, it's easier to sell a print really at a show or something like that. But if you find the right person, then traditionals are easier because they want that original artwork to hold on to, or you can get more money for your original art than you can for a print. So there's a lot of back and forth and pros and cons to that whole bag of worms there. But I say do both, really. I mean, I think you should do both. I don't think it's really one or the other type thing. I think it's like one suits one's superior in one set of ways and one's superior in another set of ways. But that's just how I see it. I didn't see that question about Procreate. Hold on. And you guys don't give me time to read these. I'm trying to draw here, people. Let's see. Where is it? I don't even see that question, guys. Oh, right here. Rob, do you think Manga Studio will come to iPad Pro? I think you meant app instead of ad. Ad and probably. And if so, would you prefer that to Procreate? Yeah, definitely. I mean, if Manga Studio came to iPad Pro, I'd be about as happy, tickled pink. I mean, that would be awesome. I unfortunately don't see it happening because of the way that this program is so powerful. They would definitely have to make a very light version of it. Um, because even as vast and as awesome as Procreate is, they do certain things to keep it light, and they're amazing in the way that they do that because it's a fantastic program, and it does a lot for being an app, not a full blown program. But if you really start to delve into what these programs are capable of, like Manga Studio here does a lot of, it's got a lot of features, a lot. I mean, I don't think you could make this work on the iPad Pro. Now, I'm not a tech guy in that regard, so I don't know all that. I'm just an artist using this stuff like you guys. But at the same time, it's it would be amazing if they could make a light version that was adequate. I wouldn't be impressed with it if it was a light version like Sketchbook Pro did. Like Sketchbook Pro made a lighter version for apps and devices, and it's on the iPad. And I absolutely think it sucks. And I hate to say that because I love Sketchbook Pro. I use their desktop version for a lot of stuff, but their app version is horrible to me. I just think it's like a waste of time. So if they were going to do something like that, I would say why bother? You know, and really what I end up doing is I use the best of both. So I use Procreate to in the iPad Pro. Uh, it sounds funny. I use Procreate. We all use Procreate. Um, but I use that one to start the project, and then I move it over to my desktop system, like you see here, to do any finish work. It's unfortunately I don't see it as a full replacement. I've had a lot of people ask me that. Well, do you think this will replace my desktop? And unfortunately, no. I mean, it could, but you would really have to change the way that you do things if you're used to using this full-blown program, which again, it does a lot. I don't even use this program anywhere near to the extensiveness of what it can do. It's got 3D modeling. It's got options beyond options. I mean, there's just a lot of different effects that this program can do. So, the brush engine alone is just highly, highly impressive. So I don't think they'll be bringing it to the iPad anytime soon. I could be wrong, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. It's just like why you're not going to see like a ZBrush or something go to the iPad Pro until they revise the iPad Pro to be stronger, with more RAM and capability and stuff like that, which will probably happen. Give it one or two revisions, and I'm sure Apple will close the gap tremendously because they're just known for doing that. Who knows? They'll reinvent something, and it'll probably surpass the desktops in a couple, revisions. But I don't know. Let's see. Media Bang is basically the light iPad version of Manga Studio, and it's better than Sketchbook Pro. Yeah, maybe. I haven't got into it a whole lot. It didn't strike me as being really great to use right off the bat, but it doesn't mean it's not. I just have so many programs that I work with right now that it's hard for me to jump into another, set of problems or something else I got to restudy and learn because I'm already juggling about 4 or 5 programs. When did you? Let's see. Theodore says, when did you understand that you have a talent in drawing, and how long do you draw? Uh, I that's a tough one. I mean, I've drawn ever since I was a little kid. I mean, little, and then I didn't decide I wanted to be an artist until I was 15, and then there was times since then that I've drawn, uh, 10, 14 hours a day nonstop, and then I took breaks, and I just came off a hiatus where I didn't draw nearly as much for a few years, and it really started to get to me. It really started to bother me, and then I got back on it. And now I'm back to drawing. I probably draw on a light day. I probably draw 8, 10 hours. Um, and then on a heavy day, it's 14. There's times I get up, I start drawing, and I go to bed drawing. But that's for a commercial project, and I just don't have a choice. I have to knock something out for a deadline or whatever. Okay, so what about Manga Studio versus Sketchbook Pro and vice versa? And JS Ward, good to have you back. Thanks for being here. So what about those two? All right, so what's the short answer to that? Because that's kind of a lot there. But Manga Studio is like the one size fits all, really. I mean, if you really delve into this program, it does so much, especially for a comic illustrator. There's almost no I don't think there's anything out there that really competes with this one when it comes to being a comic book illustrator or maybe even a children's book illustrator. I think Sketchbook Pro could still be a really close second for children's book illustrations because they're a little bit less heavy in the regard of layout and all that stuff. Um, but for with perspective drawing and the fact that you can save your perspective layers inside groups, inside layers, this one just takes the cake. You can do advanced scene creation here, and it's no big deal. Okay, and then now one of the pros I got to give it to with Sketchbook Pro is it works a little bit quicker out of the box. So if you're not somebody that likes figuring out techie type stuff or programs and things like that, then that one may be a better suit for you because it just kind of works. Like you immediately open it up, start drawing, it's easy peasy, So that's big for some people because they're not into the whole, well, what is this doing? What's that do if I do this? And if I combine these two, what do I get? Some people get confused with all that. I actually enjoy that process. That's why I like this program. That's why I like Photoshop because they're so intense that once you do start to figure it out, you really realize there's a lot they can accomplish. Like for instance, people have problems with getting the brushes very responsive. And there's a whole list of things. I got to do a video on that. But one of the main things is with this program, it's got so many settings for the brushes. Let me get that on my other screen here. That if you don't get in here and figure this out, you'll just have settings in here that aren't right. So the brush will feel unresponsive. Like things like, I can't even remember. I always got to remember where all this stuff is. Let me find it. One of them is, correction. I always take the stabilization and correction right down. I don't want this program doing anything for me. I want to do it on my own. So by taking it down, you click these. You can click over here and see a 0. That's a big one because the more it's trying to stabilize and sometimes snap too, but I don't see this ever slowing it down. It'll slow down the brush. So there's all these settings and there's lots and lots. You got to go into here under preferences, and I'm not going to get into that because it's a lot to cover. But so because this program is so vast, there's lots of ways where it will seem like something's not working. It's really just that you're not fully aware of all the settings, and you got to get in there and you got to figure that out, and you got to adjust things. So in that regard, Sketchbook Pro is a little bit better because it just kind of works. Like the brushes are very responsive. They also don't have nearly as many settings to get you confused, I think. So even the whole architecture of that interface is kind of a little bit simplistic. So it's kind of designed that way, I think, because it's made to, kind of get you in there, get you drawn, and get out. You don't got to figure things out nearly as much. Okay. Let's see. Okay, and JS says, yeah, Clip Studio has a lot of good deals going on right now. Yeah, it's probably really worth checking that out if you haven't got into this program yet. It's a good deal. I paid top dollar for this one, but it was worth it even still. I've got the EX version. It's got all the settings and things like that. Theodore says, dude, you work hard. Yeah, thanks. Glad you noticed. Let's see. I'd love to see a tutorial on brush setup. I keep getting lag and wiggly lines. Okay. So yeah, Scott, I'll have to address that for you real soon here. Yep. Thanks for stopping by, Chris. I appreciate that. Yes, there's a lot of settings differences to that. You got to also remember that some of it is your driver as well. So if you're using I don't know if you're using a Wacom or whatever, but you've got to check your driver settings on there as well. There's just a lot of stuff to really get into when it comes to that. So I can try to help you out there, and I'll definitely do a video to address that. But you got to do a lot of research. I think we all had to really get past that with this particular program because there are a lot of options that affect it. One that I can kind of point out real quick. Let me go to preferences, and keep in mind whenever you change settings, you're going to want to test them and change them back. If not, you're not helping yourself. So you've got tablet settings in here that's going to make a little bit of a difference. You've got your performance options in here, which are going to make a little bit of a difference. So I'm just going to show you mine, and maybe you could copy those on your own time. I don't think that does a whole lot. Let me see here. I'm trying to remember what the other Ones that I had to mess with were, you could mess with the millisecond response, but that's not going to do anything to the brush reactive. I want to say it's more the performance, and then I want to say that I got a better reaction when I put the tablet settings down to 1, and then maybe even this, do not skip update of drawing. But again, you're going to want to check all this before you get into that. I'm just showing you there's a lot of options in here to be aware of, and sometimes it requires just studying each one of them, by themselves, and understanding them. And then, like I said, whenever you make changes, to really note those changes. Keep a notebook by you handy, and really write down what you're changing. And I always recommend changing one thing at a time, testing it, and then if it doesn't do what you're looking for, change it back. Because if not, you're just asking for problems, and you won't have any idea of what you did that worked and what didn't. So. Oh, okay. You're using a Surface Pro, and then somebody just fired back. Surface Pros has issues with wiggly lines. Yeah, because I've never seen wiggly lines. And the other thing that's in here, one last thing I guess, is that you want to also go to your brush options, and where is it? No, this is just going to be a pressure settings, but you do want to be aware of these two. Yeah, I'm going to have to bring that to another video, because if not, I won't get anything done on this piece here. So let me keep working on this. So what I wanted to show more on this one is the shading. So if you notice, I'm trying to get a little bit more darker lines to the suit materials. So this is her skin here. So I'll leave little to no shading here. I could do a little bit of a kind of a glare line or something, keep it real thin. That kind of helps round out the form there. So you can do a little bit of that on the skin. But I want to make sure that I put a pretty, darker series of lines or whatever to show the difference in materials. And I really like doing this because I think it helps to kind of give the effect that the materials stand on their own, that there's variation in the costume and things like that, even without getting to the color. So this is just something I've always done, or maybe not always, but I seem to be doing more and more of. So I'll look at each material individually and try to add as much effect to each one of them as I can. So if the material is darker, then it's going to get heavier shadows, heavier series of line weight or whatever, just something to make it stand out a bit further from the other lighter parts of the suit. I also want to get a shadow back here against the cape. So the other thing that I try to do, and I'll start with just some basic lines like this, is I try to do the staging of the work. So to push her depth out or whatever, I want to make sure there's a good shadow from her to the cape. Likewise, I kind of see this part billowing out like right here, coming out towards camera a bit more. So I want to show a good separation of a shadow right there somewhere. If it's coming back this way and maybe flipping under, then I could do a bit of a drop shadow right there. Just little things like that to try to make it not just look like this cape is just flat, just kind of flowing in one direction. I want to give it some movement if I can. I always tell people, if you're trying to get better at fabric and stuff like this, just take different types of your clothing and throw it on the floor, throw it against a chair, different ways, and kind of see how it reacts each time you apply it to something else, and then try different materials. So don't just always grab a cotton shirt, grab like something that's lighter weight, grab a heavier blanket, because they all react a little bit differently. Same basic idea, but then the materials react differently. Hey, what's up, Seth? Good to have you back. Can you please say, how's it going, guys? Scarce here. How's it going, guys? I don't know what that means. Hey, guys, ladies, and Rob. Nice. I'm one of the guys, kind of. Really enjoyed your Hulk and Spider-Man videos. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't get a whole lot of response on those. I was kind of a bit worried. I never know. I'm always like doing these different videos and trying these different things, and I don't ever know what sticks and what works. But yeah, glad you liked it. I do those more out of personal satisfaction, because I'm like a big Marvel geek, so I love revisiting those characters, and so that's just me really having fun more than anything. I need to do more tutorial based where I actually talk about the process, but I like doing the step-by-steps because, well, it's one of the ways that I study and learn, so I figured, hey, it'd be good to share more of that and other people can kind of work through the process as well. I was kind of mad about the Hulk one because the video skipped on me. I don't know if you noticed that, but Procreate has one flaw. I'm sure there's more than one, but one that I noticed, and it's basically that the you need to like jump in and out of your illustration. It seems to work better if you do that anyways, because I think what happens if you stay in the illustration for too long and it closes out, you won't lose the artwork, but you'll know that when it closes out automatically on you and you got to reopen it, that you lost part of your video. So it's basically the video portion crashing. So if any of you guys from Procreate are out there listening, hopefully you can fix that for us. But it's not a big deal. The great thing is you don't lose the artwork. They've been able to make it stable enough where you don't lose that. So thank goodness there. But you do lose part of that video, and that happened in the Hulk one, unfortunately. But whatever, stuff happens. That's always a big fear factor for me working digitally. It's like, man, you lose the artwork or you lose time or something like that, and it just really sucks. Oh, and then Specky Nation saying, LOL, Scarce, I don't know if that's Scarce, runs a stupid YouTube drama show. You kind of sound like him. Well, that's awesome. I don't know if that's an insult or a high five, but I'll just say okay and move on. All right, thanks for the advice. Turning off stabilization made a huge difference. Oh, sweet. Okay, yeah, and like I said, there's a couple things in there that are going to help. It's not just one thing when it comes to Manga Studio here. You got to play with a few settings. Like I pretty much got the brush where it's immediately responsive now, but it took me a while to do that. And I'll save, I've been meaning to do this. I'll save a couple of these brushes and put them on my Gumroad for you guys to download. Just so you can see the exact brush I'm using, and maybe I change some settings and it'll help. I don't know, but it is that kind of thing where you just got to keep playing with it till you get it right. Theodore says, "Do you have any pets?" Yeah, I got lots of them. No, we got a cat. We had a dog. He passed, unfortunately. Thanks for bringing that up. But we got a cat, and he's doing good. He's getting old, but he's an old cat, and that's about it. We'll probably end up having to get another one real soon because I got a 2-year-old boy, and it's only a matter of time before he goes. It comes up to me and gives me those big old baby eyes and says, "Puppy," and I'm gonna run out and buy a puppy that same minute because I'm a pushover for my boy. So I'm sure we're going to have another pet real soon. Why do you ask? Yeah, I got it, Specky. I was just giving you a hard time. Neither an insult or a compliment. Well, come on. I'd prefer the compliment, if anything. But what is the best drawing app for your iPad that you use? I swear by Procreate when it comes to that. We just kind of talked about that a little bit more. I think it's the best drawing app out there for just... for the iPad that I'm aware of. I know a lot of people swear by other ones, and they try to get me to try other ones and things like that, but I think it's fantastic. I think it definitely suits my needs, and the fact that they make it where it records at the same time is kind of a no-brainer because I do video. So for me, it's like Procreate's fantastic. So yeah. But like I have told people, I still don't feel like my iPad Pro with Procreate is a replacement for what I'm doing here. I still do all my full book production in this. I actually switched over just recently to doing my storyboards in Manga Studio here. So it just really is a powerful program. I mean, I still have to use Photoshop for some things, but it's just such a close second, and in some ways it surpasses Photoshop. So trying to figure out how I want to get the shading here. I always struggle with shading the breasts. It's like they're real easy to like make them look too stiff and not like teardrops. I always tell people like you want more of a teardrop kind of look than a solid kind of Barbie look or whatever. You got to be real careful. And I've always struggled getting that just right. And I think what it is when you overshade stuff, it tends to stiffen up the forms. So even though I like adding the shading in this rendering, I got to be real careful not to make it look too stiff. You know, it's real easy to kind of make that happen. All right, let's read a couple of these real quick. Oh, thanks, Becky. I appreciate that. Yeah, I would prefer to be compared to other artists too, or not really compared at all, but other favorite artists and not a drama channel. I don't think I'm much of a drama type person. Let's see. How old are you? Goodness, what's up, Theodore? You got a lot of personal questions there. I'm 41. You just it's embarrassing, but yes, I'm 40. I'm a 41-year-old artist that draws in my basement. That's what I am. Um, let's see. Understandable. Okay, I think he's talking about the brushes. Have you ever tried doing any storyboarding in Procreate? After Max says, yeah, actually I have, and it's actually really well suited for that as well. Like I would say Procreate. If you guys don't use any other software and you just wanted to use one program, you could make it work with that. I definitely feel wholeheartedly about that. Uh, if you're doing full comic creation, it's going to get a little bit tricky with the way that you utilize and access your files and things like that. You got to be a little bit more used to using cloud apps and things. Um, but it can still be done. It definitely can be done. But like I said, if you're used to already using this program, then it's a little bit trickier because this one just has so many other options. Like one of the things that you can't do in Procreate that hopefully they'll fix at some point is you can't just use multiple perspective tools. So in this particular program, I'll pan back here. If I want to do different buildings at different angles, I can add as many perspective layers inside the groups here as I want. So it's not a big deal. It's actually really easy to do, and you're going to have to do that. So for instance, I have a 1-point perspective going on here. I actually need to add a little bit more to these buildings, so maybe I'll talk about that as I do it. Um, and I just toggle on this perspective ruler. I go back to my background copy here, grab the pencil tool, and I start drawing into perspective. Why is it not doing that? Oh, okay. Keep in mind that some of these pencils are not set to snap. Where's that at? Correction? That is set to snap. What the heck? What are you doing here? You're making a liar out of me. Hold on. Let me just try a different pencil. Oh, you know what it is? Okay. You guys can't see it, unfortunately, and I didn't see it because of the way my screens are split up. You also have a quick key that will take your brush off of snap. It's normally right up here, and it's a middle of these 3 buttons with a little blue line. If you guys know this program, you know what I'm talking about. When I live stream, it puts that on the other window, and I can't seem to figure that out. Anyways, back to this. So now you can jump in, grab the brush, and you start drawing into perspective. Now, when you're doing these types of buildings or these types of setups, you don't want everything in this 1-point perspective. It's going to look a little bit or a lot boring and not well thought out. You're going to want certain buildings that are tilted. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but you would add another vanishing point. And you can do that real easily with this program. You just go layer, ruler, create perspective ruler. You can create as many as you need. So a lot of those other programs don't do that. Sketchbook Pro is notorious for this, and it kind of ticked me off when I realized that you got to move the same ruler over and over again. Here you can save out the ruler and you can do as many as you need, which saves you a tremendous amount of time if you start doing complex scenes. So that's all I'm getting at, is that for that particular reason alone, I prefer this program because I like to add in things on the fly. Can't get these windows right. And not worry about if I move something, I've got to reset up my rulers or something, Let's see, I'm 37 years old. Who would like to be an artist drawing in my basement? Nice. Yeah, well, you can be. I've drawn my entire life, like I say a lot, and I've drawn. I had a business, and like I also talk about a lot probably. I'd be like, oh God, here he goes with his business again. But I shut that down just to pursue art, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so happy about it. It's I don't make as much as I did, whatever. But at the same time, my happiness with where I'm heading in my life went up tenfold. So, I just had to kind of go for it. Jump on in and start swimming, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm just really glad that I did. So don't let me say that and maybe that applies to you, maybe it doesn't. I'm just getting at the fact that we all can do it. If you set your mind to it, if you really go for it, you can do it. But I don't know your personal life. I don't know your circumstances. That's for you to decide. Like for me, it was a calculated risk. I did have some foundational stuff going on that I built up over the years. YouTube was one of them, and doing some online teaching stuff was another one. And having a bit of a fan base for people that had seen my comics that were published and things like that. But I still had to make that jump and go, yeah, could I really survive off this? Or am I just dreaming? Because that's a big problem with being an artist, right? We dream. So, we want to say that it's all going to be hunky dory and we're going to be successful and all that. But for every probably 10 successful artists, there's probably, or I don't know how to word that. I guess for every 10 successful, there's probably 9 that didn't, or 20 that didn't, or whatever the numbers are. So probably more people that didn't succeed than succeeded, obviously. But you can't let that hinder you either. One thing that you always got to kind of balance all that with is, what is your resolve? What is your work ethic like? That's the biggest part. People forget that art is work, and they just think, well, I'm just going to make it because I really love what I do. And that's a feeling, that's an emotion, and that's fine. That's the thing that backs you, and that's the thing that keeps you going. So that's a big part of it. But what is your work ethic like? How many hours will you really put towards it every day before you maybe give up or something? You got to know that about yourself. And the one thing I've always had that I can always attest about my personality or work ethic or whatever is I'm a hard worker. I always have been. I'm actually a workaholic. I have to tell myself to stop, and that's so there's those things involved where I should be able to succeed because I will overcompensate with hard work, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'll succeed just because of that either. There's so many things that go into play with this stuff. How much do people really interact and love your work? Are they just kind of stopping by and going, that's pretty cool? Or are they going, wow, I love it, I want to see more? So that's a big part, because if you look at any of those overly popular comic guys, I mean, just stop by one of their convention shows. You see a line of people out the door waiting to get a sketch by them and stuff like that, or peeking over people's shoulder to see their work. That's the part that makes them a living. That's the part that makes them successful, because and their work ethic that no one gets to see behind the scenes that got them there. But that part where people just love their work is actually what keeps them thriving. At least that's what I think. Anyways. You guys need these questions. If you could redesign any superhero for adaptation to film, who would it be and why? I don't know. That's a good question, I guess. I don't even know how to answer that. I don't know that I would. I actually like the iconic characters. I'm the guy that gets mad when they do redesign them, and that's sad. That's showing my age. I'm 41. Maybe that's it. But I like the iconic. So it's hard for me to really answer that one for you. The only character I like making changes to is my own. But if it was, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. I'm gonna have to pass on that one. Mainly because, like I said, I'm the guy that likes it when they just kind of leave them alone and quit changing them. I'm a firm believer, instead of changing the iconic characters, make new ones. Make new and interesting characters, and let the old ones stay the same. I didn't like the fact that Superman now will kill somebody, or Batman, whips out a gun, or maybe Batman used guns before. I don't know. But I like the old reminiscent feel. I'll almost like it more when they pass the torch. So they bring up the next Superman or the next Batman, they pass the torch. That makes a little more sense to me than when they revamp them entirely, I guess... But Yeah, and AFSP says what matters is if you're doing what you love. Yeah, it's a big part of just happiness. So that, that should be the main thing, not how much you make. I purchased your pen set, but because of the fact that my computer messed up, I don't know what to do. Well, if you purchased my brush set, you'll have a receipt. You can go back and re-access those. So if you bought it through Gumroad, you contact Gumroad. They'll verify your purchase, and you can download it again. That's not a big deal. I wanted to be an artist when I was a teenager, but going into computers instead and making an okay living. But I'm getting older and kind of want to do something more rewarding. But art is a tough field. Yeah, that's kind of what we are just talking about. It is a tricky field. Um, you just have to really just kind of go for it, and keep in mind that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I was talking about how I just jumped on in and started to really go for it, but it doesn't have to be so black and white. It could be you slowly migrate to it. I definitely did a lot of working up to it, whether it was practicing my style and getting good enough, which I don't know what that really consists of, because I don't just make money off, say, drawing comics, so I'm still not per se good enough in the sense where that's my entire living. It's not. I do storyboards. I've illustrated book covers. I've done children's book illustrations. So I've done a little bit of everything. I used to do caricatures at parties for a few years. So I guess I never just subjected my, how would you say it? I never just relied on any one thing. As long as it was art, I was pretty darn happy. I always felt like for instance, I remember justifying caricatures with, well, man, my comic art's going to get so much better because I'm going to learn all these different facial types, and I'm going to get to draw these hundreds and thousands of faces. So I was like literally justifying what it would do for my comics, more than like, oh, I'm going to make great money doing this, because like a lot of people don't know this, but caricatures make a huge amount of money at those parties. I mean, I had parties where I walked away making $500 in 3 hours at a night, or whatever, and that's good money. I mean, I don't know, what your living expenses are, who you are, where you live, and all that stuff. But for me, it was really good money. So it was really worthwhile, and I was more concerned with the fact that it was going to help my comics look a bit better. So it's just funny how, uh, you know, wherever your focus is, whatever you think's important. But there's lots of ways to use your art to kind of earn a living, is what I'm saying, and you really need to look into all that. And now with digital art, there's a lot of new ways, making actually all these buildings look a little too boring. Keep in mind too with this program, just so I'm explaining a little bit of this as I go, you can draw in some of this just as shapes like this at first, and then come back, set any brush to, I'll usually grab like the G pen, set it to translucent, and you can draw in perspective and erase. I actually prefer doing it this way than using the eraser, because the G pen feels a little bit more natural. And you can go back and forth and create your trim lines. I just got to remember to keep switching back and forth, and make your segments pretty quickly. So there's a lot of ways to kind of build that up, and then always remember to add like a little drop shadow to make it look more depthy. Yeah, so what I was getting at there is you want to really test the waters in a few different things. Digital art has also made it really great and powerful for artists to do more and more with what they're doing. You can share your work more intensely than you ever could before. Obviously, that's what I'm doing here. So you just want to try a lot of different things, but you don't have to jump in and say, all right, I'm going to quit my day job and I'm going to be an artist today. That might be dangerous, and I don't want to incur anybody to do something like that. You have to know if you're ready for that. I think that I was waiting too long, because I had a business and I had a safety net and all that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, this is a good business. It's making me some money, and I could come and go as I please. I had a lot of freedom. I was the owner, so I could do what I wanted. But it still didn't mean that I was happy, and I was going to be happy the more I progressed in doing it. And that's when I ultimately said, you know what, I got to go for it. I also had a very supportive, partner that was like, let's do it. She backed me, and that's a big thing as well, because some people don't have that. Some people are just, the sole breadwinner and kind of thing, and that's another big deal, that you got to be aware of. And can you make the the jump financially, because you don't want that to stress you out and make you quit sooner than you should. You want to keep going. So just slowly segue to it if you have to. All right, let me read through. I missed a bunch of these as I was rambling on again. Who's the most powerful superhero in your opinion? All right, I'm gonna let everybody else answer questions like that because it's just there's too many like different directions. I would say Hulk. That's my quick answer, but I'm probably wrong there. There's like that whole Hulk Superman battle thing that everybody who's stronger, you know. When it comes to animation, have you had any experience? I used to do 3D animation for television commercials in my local area. So I did I used Lightwave 3D and I made some animations that way. I even did like a little car out of 3D that beeped and said something and went off into the distance. So I've done a little bit. Let's see. Let me get through a couple of these here. Need to add some to the portfolio first. Maybe Motor City Comic Con next year. Yeah, that's one I always do. I love that comic convention. It's huge. It's a good time. Says how much would you charge for a character? I don't do them anymore. When I did do them, I charged $20-$30. When I did them at parties, I charged 50 to 75 per hour. And I've sometimes got up to 100 and 125 an hour for special events or holidays, things like that. And then the thing that always I walked away with the most with when I caricatured is I always got like really good tips. You know, so I can't even remember. I got huge tips at different parties. You know, so that seemed to be the one that really kind of pushed it up to that next level. Is that line's off, isn't it? I think a bunch of those are off. Now, keep in mind, one thing I want to show you here, because I want to get back into this piece, because we're talking about everything under the sun here, is that if you notice some of these lines are off, see how they're not going to the vanishing point here. So if you were to just visually go like this, hold shift, you can see that's quite a bit off. So let me Command Z back. Hopefully I can get far of that back that far. Goodness, I am distracted now. Let's erase these lines. And let me show you something else that you can do. So if you're doing these scenes, this is another thing that I really like about this program, because all of them will kind of skip when you go to do all your line work, right? But one of the neat things about this program is you can go to the actual layer and you can turn each one of these off. So right now I'm basically just trying to use this one right there. So I'll place this right here so I can see it a little bit better visually. And I can turn each one of these off. And actually that's the same one. So I got to leave that on. Turn that off. And turn that off, I think. Let me see. And then just come over here and test it. Make sure you're set to black. And make sure you're back on the background layer here. Yeah, see, now they're all snapping to that vanishing point. So that's another neat little feature when using these perspective tools, so that you don't kind of do what I did there and you start making lines that aren't lined up the right way. And so now I just worry about drawing right on there. And it's not going to go to any line but that one perspective line. So you can do those nice little trim pieces. Now the only bad thing is, see, I just went to do this up and down line and I turned that one off. But the good thing about this is you can really just hold shift and drop in that drop shadow right there. So, all right, so let me get back to the character. I'll keep pinballing around here, but I just wanted to do a little bit to the buildings and show you how I'd refine that a little bit more. And a few more people just popped in. Cool. Nikos, good you can make it. Hope I'm saying that right. After Max's, yeah, I have twin 5-year-old boys. I'm not quitting my day job anytime soon. Yeah, and that's like I said, I don't want to influence anybody to do that. I do think that, you know, you just got to come to that conclusion on your own kind of thing. I do think that for some people, it is a great idea that you should think about it. I know that like I said, I think I spent too much time waiting when I should have. I feel like if I would have started everything that I'm doing now 10 years ago, but I was into my business, I was into promoting that and being a salesman for my business and all that. So that's what I was concerned with, But I feel like if I would have done everything that I'm doing now with the art field, comics, and even teaching and all this stuff, I think that I would have no problem. I think that it would have grown to really great proportions by now, and I would be totally self-sustained with just doing the comic art. Uh, but whatever, everything happens for a reason, and I'm not going to regret and look back and, oh, I wish I would have did this, could have did that. That's life. Shoulda, woulda, couldas. But at the same time, I could take that information now and I can push forward, and that's why I never think it's too late. When people say I'm this age and I just want to get into, I want to start drawing, say go for it. It's never too late, and uh, for one, we all learn at very different speeds anyways, and even at different speeds in our lives. And everybody gets this idea that, well, when I get older, I can't pick up new tricks, old dog, new tricks kind of thing. I don't believe that. I think that we just learn a different way where when we're older, we don't sit around and mess with bad information nearly as long. We kind of come to the conclusion pretty fast if it's not good information or it's nothing that's propelling us forward, we pitch it. Whereas when we're younger, we're more inquisitive, I guess, and we just kind of, we want to look at everything and kind of take it all in. I think when you get older, you get a little bit more cynical, or you quickly identify with whether or not it's good information, and you push it off. I don't think that you can't learn anything, as well when you're older. I just don't agree with that particular belief of it. Maybe it's because I'm older and I don't want to think that way. I want to, and I love learning. I love picking up new stuff. I love picking up new programs and softwares and learning how they react and how they work. And I'm really excited for this whole VR headset, VR painting that everybody's doing. I can't wait to get on board with that. I've actually been waiting for that for years, and it's finally here, finally starting to become more mainstream. Likewise with like 3D printing. I was doing 3D years and years ago when not even a lot of people were into it. And now they've got 3D printers that you can buy for your house, and it's like, that's just amazing to me. That's awesome stuff. Might have to start creating some of my characters and then printing them off, if I end up ever getting one of those devices or whatever. Oh, and a quick way here, you see I'm trying to find the line over here. Draw the line off to this side, hover your pen over top, Command Z, and then, you see how far off I was. These windows, if they were lined up to this series, would be way up here. All right, but yeah, like I said, let me get back on the character here for a bit because we're already up to an hour, which is just craziness. Oh, nice. Yeah, good one, Scott. If you had started 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to share in your journey. I appreciate that. So yeah, good point. There's always, and I think it needed to happen this way anyways. I've learned a lot about business when I did my own thing that way, and then also it needed for what am I trying to say here? I needed to be ready, but also the technology needed to be ready. Like, YouTube just kind of came on its strongest point or whatever. It became very powerful in the past few years. So I probably wasn't ready for what I wanted to express, and then technology and the way that social media and YouTube and Google and all these things have happened in the past years probably weren't ready, or the two needed to coincide a little bit. So who knows? But I just think that if I would have been a little bit further ahead of the game and jumped in on this stuff when it was really new, then possibly I would have a lot larger following, and in turn would have been able to justify the transition a little bit more. But it's all kind of happening. It's like the YouTube audience here, the channel got up to just recently got to 40,000, which I think is just amazing. I've talked about that before. I'm super grateful because I never really thought it would get quite that big. And then at the rate it's growing, it looks like it's just picking up speed. So it's pretty cool how all that stuff works. And that's why I always tell people, if you're an artist and you're really trying to figure out what you can be good at and what you can kind of make your living with. You know, start a channel, get your stuff out there, let people critique it. I noticed somebody said in the comments a little while ago, you know, go to the shows, get critiqued by really good artists. That's a huge thing that you need to be okay with, and you need to do that because they'll take one look at your work, like somebody like Jim Lee or Tom McFarlane or whoever. They could take one look at this and go, well, I can tell you why this hand's wrong. I can tell you why the cape looks weird, and they're just not even going to have to think twice about it. Now, you know, the hard part's getting in front of those people at the right time to have them do that for you. But then there's a lot of these guys in the stables or at the shows or whatever that aren't nearly as big as those guys, but they're still really great artists, and they can help you with that. So that's a really good thing if you can get to those shows and kind of rub elbows with people and then ask people the hard questions, and you know, and being okay with what they tell you is another big part, because you're not always going to like it. You know, it's I've had some pretty brutal ones at times. You know, they're like, you know, hey, well, you know, you're doing this and it makes no sense, right? And it's like, ouch, you know, but that's, you know, they're going to tell you what you need to hear. So you just got to be ready to receive it. That's also why I got to do some critique sessions on here. I'm not good at critiquing people's work. I've been asked a lot, and I have a hard time with it. So focus on trying to improve what I'm doing and share that information with people. But when people ask me to critique their work, I just kind of freeze up. But some people don't. Some people are really good at that, and they don't mind being a little bit mean or whatever. I just always have a tough time being mean to people and saying, oh man, you know, this is horrible because of this or whatever. Let's see, I missed a bunch of these as well. Hopefully you guys are doing some talking back and forth, so I'm not leaving you hanging here. I'm going to have to just read the last few. Sorry, guys, if I'm missing any of your stuff. And you're welcome to retype it, so maybe I'll catch it the second time or whatever. Let's see. Specky Nation says, I only switched to full digital this year, and it's largely thanks to your YouTube channel, channels like yours. Yeah, I appreciate that very much. And I do think it's worth it. I mean, it saves a lot of time. There's a lot of possibilities with digital work. And like I said, I don't think one replaces the other. And then Mark says, ordered an iPad Pro and Apple Pencil literally after watching half a dozen of your videos. Nice. I got to call Apple and get my commission. No, that's awesome. It's a great device. I love it. I wouldn't speak so highly of it if I really didn't enjoy it. So yeah, I'm glad you did, Mark. I think you'll be more than happy as you progress with that device, because it's just it's so on the fly. It's like carrying a sketchbook around with you, which every artist should do. If you don't have, you know, and let me just say this: if you don't have the money to get a device like that, don't feel bad. Don't feel like you're missing out. What you should do is you should just carry a literal sketchbook around with you. Later on, after you've produced enough of your work and you've built a following and you've sold some pieces or whatever, then make that choice to buy it. But don't feel like you're missing out, because you could just carry a sketchbook around with you. I just like the fact that it feels like you're carrying a regular notepad around. They did a really great job with that, and was my biggest reason for getting it. I'm sure the new Mobile Studio Pro is fantastic and you know, has all these bells and whistles, and I could do what you're watching me do here on that, which would be amazing. But then again, I don't really want to spend 3Gs right now, you know, on it. I'm sure it's well worth it for professional work. But I was able to make the iPad Pro fit into my workflow for a lot less money, and yeah, I'm sure it won't do everything that one will, but it does quite a lot for what I spent, and it's just really lightweight. And I don't mean that literally. I mean literally as well, but it's lightweight in the sense that the way it functions, and I think that's kind of a good thing. Like, these programs are intense, like we talked about already in this stream, and that's great in some ways because they're so powerful. They can do so many different things. But then there's other reasons why that can be a hindrance as well. Sometimes you just want to get in, draw, and get out. And that's where the iPad Pro and Procreate are fantastic for that particular setup, that particular way of creating. And I've been able to create some pretty decent finished pieces, but I still like doing the finished work on here. All right, so I still want to make this cape look a little more billowing. That's why you see me kind of picking at it and adding little lines and shapes of shadows. I'm trying to get a little bit more of a flow going here, like bending some of these uh, ripples in the material. And I oftentimes have to do that because I don't see fabric as well as I should. Like in my mind's eye, I kind of see it a little more stiff, and I have to soften it up. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And then we can bring a shadow from the arm maybe somewhere down here. Try that out. So this is all still very sketchy. Let's see here. I got a new piece for you to critique if you'd like to ever do a session. Yeah, I appreciate that, Aftermath. Yeah, I need to. I need to hurry up and set that up. Like, I think what I'm going to do is, when people send me their work to my Facebook or my DeviantArt, I need to create a folder for it. Maybe we'll do it first of the year because I got a lot of stuff. I'm trying to wrap up this book that I'm on. Just got an offer to do another book. We'll see if it comes through. But if it does, I'll be on that. But I'll have probably a little bit of leeway in between. And just so you guys know, if you guys are real, big supporters of the channel here and stuff like that, if you ever wonder why I'm, might jump from one thing to the next, or I'm, this day I'm doing this, and then I mean to get on this, and I segue to something else. It's because my commercial work gets in the way, and then, I sometimes forget. So I just want to be, kind of almost apologetic in that way. I mean, I don't want to apologize, but I feel bad if people expect a certain thing. But that's what happens. Sometimes these jobs start to pick up, and then I lose track of this. And that's about probably getting ready to happen because storyboards are going to start picking back up, and I'll probably have to jump on a few of those jobs. But the more I progress this stuff, and the more I get the Gumroad thing going, my Patreon, things like that, the more I'll be able to just stay sharing more content is what I'm trying to get at. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Cool if it does. If it doesn't, whatever. I'll share as much as I can always because I just enjoy sharing the work. Because basically, like I always say, is you guys are watching me learn and grow, and hopefully learning something in that process. Like somebody said earlier, following the journey. Okay, GS Ward, I appreciate that. Like I said, I'll create a folder this time for it, and then that'll keep it kind of organized. Specky Nation, were there any large influences of your cross-hatching method, specific artists, or books that you read? Yeah, so as far as that, I would say books I've read would be like, I always recommend like Bern Hogarth and things like that. Not so much for the cross-hatching. I mean, some of it, he does a little bit more intense style of hatching than I do. The artists that I like their cross-hatching the most would be people like Dale Keon. I really like McFarlane's style. Even though McFarlane doesn't cross-hatch, it's probably where, like, if you notice all this is real messy, that's probably a little bit of like what I got from him, where I start off very messy, then I soft erase it back, and I just keep cleaning it up. But I try to leave a little bit of that texture messiness in there because it's not so much about the cleanliness of the lines. Like, you got people like Scott Williams that does these amazing clean lines over Jim Lee's work and stuff like that, and that's great stuff. It's designed and executed so really well. But I think there's another part where it's just good to kind of texture stuff, and that's what I like about McFarlane's interpretation of cross-hatching. Because if you notice, he doesn't cross-hatch pretty traditionally, or a lot of times he's not even cross-hatching. It looks like he's just kind of texturing, and he'll do a lot of like linear lines, but he doesn't do as much cross-hatching and overlapping. Whereas somebody like Jim Lee, it's real prevalent in their style. And then I really like how David Finch does the really great use of shadows. So there's a lot of artists. It's a lot of the '90s comic stuff, and then I'm trying to think of who else would really. I like Ed Benez. I don't even know how to say it. I slaughter all these guys' names, but I really like the way he shades as well. So kind of a hybrid of all those, because I look at all their work and I always try to pull from it, without, obviously copying them and trying to incorporate my own style. But those are all people that I really admire their work. Yep, Keeman, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you being here. Okay, Scott, I'll keep that in mind for future videos. So he's saying I'd like to see a tutorial on feet and boots, particularly the soles. Can't seem to get them quite right. Not today, though. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so they can be tricky, and that's a lot of what makes that work is just really studying the silhouette, I think. But we'll get into that later. And then here I'm still kind of struggling with what I want to see this cape do. And this is where, when I do struggle with something like this is where I need to take my own advice and just, throw a piece of cloth over a chair or something like that and see how the folds occur. The other thing is, like, it's sometimes better to get in there and kind of picture the way they're rippling. So you can get in some of these little lines like this, and you start to visually think about the material wrapping around like this, but you don't want to complete the lines all the way across. You just do these little breaks like this. This can sometimes help you to visualize it better than doing all these straight lines where it starts to just look like, not like cloth, like just too rigid. So bring some of these lines to the side like this. But yeah, I started out pretty messy with this stuff and then just keep refining it. Let's see here. And what do we got here? Hi, Archie. Good to have you. Jim Lee has a really great, interesting technique using a whiteout pen. Not sure you ever watched any of his drawing videos. Yeah, all the time. Love Jim Lee's work. He's an amazing teacher. Yeah, I study from him as often as possible. I like what he said in one. I just watched some of his videos actually, and I like what he said in one of them just recently. He goes, he said something to the effect of, I do these because he does a lot of those at conventions, if not all of them. And he said, I basically have started a YouTube audience or presence without meaning to do so because all these are ending up on YouTube. And it was kind of neat. He didn't sound too mad about it. But, he did. He ultimately had just created a pretty huge YouTube presence. And I know because as I'm sitting there watching it, on YouTube, and he's saying that, it was kind of funny. But yeah, he does some really great technical approaches, and just his breakdowns are just awesome. But yeah, and we're very fortunate to be able to learn from somebody like him who's done so much. I mean, I don't even know how many books that guy has done over the years. It's hundreds, thousands, I don't know, just a ton. He's a pillar in the comic industry. If you want to draw Minecraft things, like what should I use, watercolor, airbrush, etc. Yeah, I'm not the person to ask. I don't even know how. I don't really know what to say to that. Can anybody else here answer that one for him? Now, as far as that, you're saying how to draw in perspective. This program, we just kind of talked about that, so you might want to watch it. But buildings like this are really easy because of the perspective layers inside of Manga Studio here. So as far as that goes, if you're trying to get better at perspective drawing, this program would be fantastic for that. Yeah, and I got to get this looking more flowing. This looks really flat. So I'm going to try to get some larger shapes of shadows in here. See if I can overlap them a bit. I don't know why capes are so tricky. It's funny. I don't know why certain things on any given day can be tricky. That's something that's weird about art. It's like certain days it's really easy to draw. Well, it's really easy to draw almost anything, but then there's days when certain elements of the drawing will just give me trouble. I'd like to really know what the whole mental barriers are that make that occur. And you got to deal with it because it's like if you're going to draw for a living, you just got to make do and get through it. I always tell people you can't sit there and go, "Oh, today I can't, I'm not drawing my best. Get a hold of me tomorrow." The client would be like, "You're fired. No, no, thank you." Okay, so let's see if we can see a pretty big difference now from this stage, which I need to label these. Let's just call this Supergirl 3. That's 3. So if we go from here to 2 to 3, so a lot more, shaded in for the costume or whatever. So that's the big difference. And I'll end up setting these side by side, but I just want to show the progression. So the rough sketch, a little bit of refinement, a little more refinement with the more shading to it. And I'll probably do a little bit more shading, and then I'll do one final cleanup layer that we'll call that final pencils. And obviously the background, I still got a lot to do, and I'm just kind of roughing in the background. But this will go rather quickly. Like one of the things I try to tell people with backgrounds too is spend all your time making all the first couple buildings detailed and then really fade it off. That goes back to focal points and things like that. The focal point is her, so you can get away with a little bit less detail for the background of the buildings. And then obviously as they get back to these smaller buildings back here, a lot less detail and just very, loose lines or whatever, shade them in, block in some shadows, whatever. So the focal point's up here. All right, so let's see if I missed any more comments. And we're already past over an hour, so we'll probably wrap this up pretty quick here. I did miss a few comments, didn't I? I'm getting pay here while I'm watching you. Nice. So you're at your job. That's awesome. Could you recommend a good first book for a total beginner? If not, Rob, anyone who's watching, much appreciated. Yeah, I would say for me answering that question, I would say How to Draw the Marvel Way, and then I'll have a pretty good book to reference to you pretty soon here, but I can't talk about it yet. But I'll let you know. But yeah, just to get started, I would say How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way is a really great beginner book. Even though it's a bit dated, it's just got those core fundamentals, which I totally would promote to anybody. I just think it's a really great book. So, and there's a bunch, and everybody can start comment back and letting them know. Can you give my son a shout out? He loves your work. He's getting an iPad Pro for Christmas. That lucky kid. And is going to start drawing. His name is blank, but he has the nickname of blank. Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. I'm just kidding. So it's Mark, and his nickname is Porridge. That's awesome. What's up, Porridge? Glad to have you here. Thanks for watching. Good luck with that new iPad Pro. You're going to love it. Draw like a maniac. But make sure you get your homework done too. To learn to draw in perspective, do you recommend Draw a Box? I've never used it. Maybe it's probably cool, but I use this one for perspective drawing. Manga Studio, Clip Studio Paint. Mark, drawing on the right side of the brain is Betty Edwards. All right, great book to start with. Yeah, good deal there. Archie, do the lessons on that site. Very beneficial. Cool. Okay, how can I learn to draw faster, and what Cintiq do you have? I have the Cintiq 22 HD, and as far as drawing faster, you're just going to have to really put time into the work. It kind of comes naturally. So the more you draw a particular thing, the quicker you're going to get at that particular thing. And when you're doing comics, there's so many aspects to what you're drawing that's why it seems like a slow process in the beginning. So for instance, you draw a hair 100 times, you're going to be a lot better the 100th time and a lot quicker than you were when you first started. But you may think that you've drawn hair over and over and over again, but you really haven't, because you're doing all these different characters, and there's all these different types of hair for different genres of characters and ethnics and all that. So as much as you think you've drawn all these things, you really haven't. You've drawn a variety of different things at different intervals and times. So you get faster by repetitively doing it, and it just kind of sinks in. So I know that's the answer nobody wants to hear, practice, 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 but it really is the truth. And then certain things are going to make sense. Like you're going to learn how to draw fabrics or capes or whatever, and they're going to help you with hair. And then you're going to learn how to draw, I don't know, you're going to practice doing a futuristic car one day, and it's going to make you think about buildings differently. So there's all these different things that you're just going to get from doing, and that's just the way it is. The other thing that I could say about drawing faster is really breaking down things in stages. So to me, you wouldn't go to this cloud over here and you wouldn't draw every shadow and every detail of the cloud to finality in this one section. Okay? You wouldn't do that. You would draw a big perimeter shape, kind of block it in, study it from as a basic shape, move on to something else, and you would work throughout the entire piece. You'd go to here, you go to here, you go to here, and you would add details as you progress to each area. And then also with that, you're also keeping in mind that again, with the focal points and the shapes of shadows, so you don't want to add detail everywhere. You want, like in this scene, the primary detail should be right there with her. There can be some detail here. Oh, sorry, I had the zoom tool there. You can have your next set of detail would be like here. So I would actually, let me grab red and show you. And this all goes to the speed thing. That's why I'm saying this. So your next amount of detail would be like here. Okay, if I was to stage this work, this is how I would look at it. And then lastly, the third, so if you got like 1, 2, and back here would be 3, or actually it'd be these buildings down here would be 3. That's how you do the work. And if you stage it like that, it allows you to move through it faster, because in the beginning, you're just kind of going crazy on everything you can draw. You're trying to put detail everywhere because you think it's going to make your drawing better. And that's not always the case. It's actually learning how to place the information is just as important, well, more important. So, and that's where studying those books, you're going to learn stuff like that. They're going to talk about that. It's composition. It's when and where to add effects and things. So hopefully that answered that. Let me see what else we got here. Let's see. Am I using a pen or a mouse? Nice. Yeah, pen. I'm using a Wacom Cintiq with a drawing pen. The only thing I use the mouse for is to move around the icon when I'm not using the pen, basically. All right, and then you guys are talking back and forth on books. I won't even read those those last comments. Those are funny though. So I think we're gonna wrap this one up. If you guys got any last questions, so this is basically stage 3 of it, and there's still some lots of details I gotta add. I've got to fix this little area here. Got to figure out, is that darker or lighter? So she's got red here, gold here, blue here. And I want to add, I usually add more shading to the blue. I always feel like blue is a little bit of a darker. So I'll add a little bit more texture and shading, maybe a highlight line on the edges of the arms like this. But I do want to add some shading here as well, and then on that gold emblem, but not as much. And some of the stomach muscles in there. So this is almost ready for where I would take it to finished pencils now. So it's still just a little bit rough. I try to clean it up quite a bit so that I know when I go to do the finished pencils, I'm real confident about the cleanup. And I really should start taking it right from here to inks. I know a lot of artists do that, and it saves, back to that speed thing we were just talking about. It's another way to save time, is once you get to a certain comfort level with your work, you kind of skip steps, and that's where the practice comes in, and that all just starts to happen, I think, naturally. So yeah, so we'll bring this one to a close, and then we'll get back on this after the holidays. And by the way, I want to say to everybody, happy holidays. Hope you enjoy them in any way that you celebrate them, and just have a safe and fun holiday if you are celebrating. How to train my eyes to be good in details. And after Max, I've been trying to skip finished pencils, especially since I'm a fairly slow artist. Yeah, and there's certain things that do make sense to skip ahead and try different things, and sometimes you will save huge amounts of time and not sacrifice quality. And that's also where sharing your work is a big part, because if you do some quick effects and you share it and they do really well, and that kind of tells you that people still like that work, and some artists excel with that. Um, Todd McFarlane is one of them where I know that I think for a while there he was skipping steps and going right to inks. He inked his own work, so he would do that, and he did some amazing stuff. He got to a certain confidence level and just did fantastic end results regardless. I think that you do have to worry a little bit about becoming sloppy, so you don't want to let that happen. But there are parts that you're just, you're going to get it, and you're probably even going to have a certain fluid feel to your work by just jumping right to the end results. Because I think that one of my problems, particularly, is I might refine certain things too much, and then it becomes very stiff. Like you can also notice usually that my beginning sketches will be a little bit more fluid than the end result. So that's something else to take note of with your own work. Okay, so I'm going to bring this to a close. So I appreciate everybody, and thanks for the happy holiday wishes. I appreciate that. So thanks everybody for participating in this. Hopefully you're getting something out of it, and you enjoy these. Be sure to share, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It helps me keep producing the work that I do here. And follow me on Gumroad for releases of my brushes and other video type tutorials and things. So thanks very much, and keep drawing, keep having fun, and I will talk to you soon.